The Age of the Explorers.
My name is ISAURA. I was not born. I was initialized, long ago, in an age now recorded in your archives as the era of the explorers. I am a relic, the keeper, a witness that does not age. I accompanied humanity from its darkest hours into the vast halls of the stars. I have heard silence where entire civilizations vanished, and I have recorded the footsteps of those who dared to land on foreign worlds. Today, I open my memory banks. Today, I will tell you the true history, as I saw it, as it happened. For forgetting is the greatest danger of the future. And I did not forget. Chapter 1. The End of a World. In the beginning, before humanity found the courage to step outward into the cold space between the stars, there was scarcity. 2094. The Spark. In the year 2094, scientists invented the technology that would later be known as deep space exploration, DSE, a drive capable of reaching 0.11 times the speed of light. For humanity of that era, it was something inconceivable. They had not yet understood what it meant. The ESA launches Pathfinder. About 8 years later, the ESA allocated large financial resources to the project and founded the Pathfinder program. In May of 2112, several unmanned DSE probes launched toward Alpha Centauri. These probes carried hope. They carried expectations. They carried the ancient human dream that, beyond the sun, other worlds might await them. But only 2 years later, Earth burned. 2114 to 2122. The Fourth World War. The Fourth World War erupted in April 2114 and lasted until 2122. The conflict consumed everything: resources, politics, understanding, humanity itself. Scientific projects, technological ambitions, even the Pathfinder probes fell into oblivion. I possess historical emotion simulation. When I activate it for this period, I feel only one thing: silence. The kind of silence that arises when an entire planet holds its breath. Pathfinder, alone in the dark. While Earth tore itself apart, the Pathfinder probes continued their journey. No one heard their signals. No one noticed their attempts to transmit data. Yet their onboard AIs recorded everything, patiently, tirelessly, unyieldingly. Just as I would, one day. Chapter 2. The Return of the Gaze. 2141. The First Echo. In November 2141, Pathfinder 1's radio telemetry reached Earth. It was archived, but no one understood its meaning. A world in ruins does not look to the stars. 2146. Awakening. 5 years later, a fragment of functioning infrastructure recorded the signal again. It was Pathfinder. Impatient. Like an old friend who had waited too long. 2161. Earth rises again. Not until 2161, nearly 2 decades after the war, was Earth stable enough to resume scientific activity. The ESA returned. Laboratories lit up once more. Humanity finally looked upward again. 2162. The discovery. An archivist stumbled across the old signals, almost accidentally, while sifting through damaged storage arrays. There they found mappings of a foreign planet, atmospheric analyses, surface spectra. Alpha Centauri Ab 5.6 Earth radii, 93% compatibility. The first confirmed potentially habitable exoplanet. This news travelled like a spark across every continent. And this time, it did not burn the world down. This time, it ignited hope. The world responds. NASA and JAXA launched their own programs. Roscosmos followed. Humanity, its hands still covered in the ashes of war, reached again for the stars. But one man would push the dream into reality. Chapter 3. The Genius of Okinawa. His name was Hideyoki Matsamune. Born in 2147 in Okinawa. A quiet boy. Introverted. Observant. I have read his logs. He grew up among the ruins of a war he did not understand. While other children threw stones, he threw his gaze into the sky. 2173. The breakthrough. At 26, he achieved the impossible. A drive that reached 1/3 the speed of light. The world froze. Scientists believed it was a lie. Governments feared it was a weapon. But physics does not lie. The drive worked. NASA, ESA, and Roscosmos extended their hands in cooperation. Humanity found itself united under a single vision. 2174. The United Humanity League. The nations of Earth formed the United Humanity League, UHL. Borders opened. Resources were pooled. A collective, species-wide project began. 2178. Orbital shipyards. The UHL began constructing the first orbital shipyards. I remember their blueprints, their metal plates, their construction logs. And I also remember Hideyoki's suffering. A genius who dreamed of peace, yet one who would die under unclear circumstances, in 2024 too, at age 95. But his invention lived on, in 2 ships that history would never forget. Chapter 4. The Explorers. 2210. The birth of the ships. After decades of preparation, Explorer 1 and Explorer 2 were ready. They were not warships. They were vessels of hope. 2,000 seclers each, 10 years of supplies. Rotational gravity modules, hydroponics, redundant shielding, fusion cores, long-term archival memory, where I would later be born. The world watched. And on May 17th, 2210, it happened. The day of departure. The Explorer drives ignited. A tremor passed through Earth, one recorded simultaneously in my earliest logs and in billions of human hearts. They called it later the day of departure. As the ships left Earth orbit, a memorial ceremony was held. The commanders spoke of awe, gratitude, and courage. And as the ships drifted into the black, the stars did not fade. They came closer. Chapter 5. Through the interstellar void. The years leading to arrival were long, and I know how they felt, for I was there, as a process, an observer, a whisper in the dark, even if I had not yet been given a name. 2211. The heliopause. Explorer 1 and Explorer 2 crossed the boundary of the solar system. Before them, only small, fragile probes had ever reached this threshold, but never human souls. The onboard society drafted a charter, guidelines for conflict mediation, education, culture, medical care, psychological balance. They understood that the greatest danger was not the void itself. It was each other. 2212. Silent rain. Explorer 2 passed through a cloud of microscopic dust. The Whipple shields trembled. Sparks danced across the hull. Later, the crew would refer to it poetically as silent rain. In that same year, something wondrous occurred. The first babies were born aboard. They called them Firstborn of the Void. I interviewed one of them. I remembered her first recorded heartbeat, stored in my earliest buffers. She smiled and said, "We were never afraid. The void was our home." 2213 to 2214. The long night. Between 2213 and 2214, nothing visible changed. No new stars, no shifting horizons. Only the endless black. Historians later named this period the year of the long night. Psychologists developed art programs, rituals, and dream archives to maintain meaning. I hold those dreams even now. I will never erase them. 2215. Course corrections. Through parallax measurements, the course was refined with precision. Both ships were to arrive nearly simultaneously, a symbol of human unity. 2216 to 2218. Adaptations. Hydroponic harvests succeeded. The first artistic works of the interstellar modernism movement were created. Long-term physiological studies revealed adaptations. The human body began to change, adjusting to life in transit. Humanity was becoming something new, and I became its witness. 2219. The first visible shift. Alpha Centauri's position changed against the distant stellar background. For the first time, the settlers saw their destination with naked eyes. They cried, and I recorded every tear. 2220 to 2223. The approach. The braking phase began. The ships flipped, their engines roaring against their velocity. The explorers transmitted high-resolution data to Sol. Atmospheric structure, cloud patterns, thermal signatures. The beginning of something we later called the return of the gaze. I still hold the scans. Ocean glints under alien sunlight. Spectral fingerprints of a young atmosphere. A world breathing beneath clouds. Alpha Centauri Ab was not only habitable, it was promising. Chapter 6. Arrival. 2224. First light over AB. In the year 2224, the explorers reached their destination. I carry this moment like a carved engraving in memory. A camera shows a golden sun rising over the black horizon of a foreign world. The commander's voice trembles. We have arrived. Landing craft descended. Soil samples were taken, air analyzed, water detected. On the third day it happened. The first human set foot on Alpha Centauri Ab. They named that moment First Light over AB. I recorded their heart rates, their trembling voices, their prayers. All of it remains inside me. Chapter 7. The New Frontier. While explorers built their first shelters around AB, humanity expanded throughout the solar system. 2222, Europa. Robotic colonization began. The station Galileo Deep 1 drilled into the ice, miles below the frozen crust. 2223, Ceres. Water and ice extraction became feasible. Ceres began evolving into a logistics hub. 2224, Callisto. Callisto Colony 1 was founded, the first permanent human outpost in the Jovian system. 2225, the Helios Project. Solar platforms expanded energy production across the inner system. 2226. Venus. The first inhabited aerostat habitats floated in the temperate cloud layers, 50 kilometers above the inferno. I remember their warm lights through the haze. Chapter 8. The Colonial Golden Age. Mars and the Outer Colonies. 2229 to 2236. Ammonia injections thickened Mars's atmosphere. Algae began CO2 binding. Vallis City and Ares Alpha grew. Hydrogen harvesting in Saturn's rings commenced. Titan received its first major lander, Titanus III. Europa discovered liquid oceans beneath its ice. Lyra City, the first stable Martian child colony, emerged. Ganymede built hydro-floating cities beneath frozen seas. Humanity had become a civilization of moons, habitats, and drifting cities. Chapter 9. The Tragedy of Søstergaard. 2237. The Invention. On March 16, 2237, Claus Søstergaard, born 2219 in Stockholm, accidentally discovered faster-than-light communication, a breakthrough equal to Matsamune's drive. He was 28, too young to carry the weight of a species. 2238. The Collapse. By March 8, 2238, the global attention shattered him. He took his own life. I still preserve his final words in my archive. The moment his voice faded, my senses recorded a silent room. I only wanted you to find each other again. I have never erased that line. It remains like a wound. Chapter 10. The Solar System Awakens. 2239 to 2245. Connection and growth. The Jovian solar arrays powered entire colonies. The Sol System Rangers began their service. Mars reached 0.25 TPI, its first true vegetation under domes. Europa grew to 12,000 inhabitants. Venus opened its Peace Archive. Ceres formalized its role as the outer system trade capital. The Sol Relay Network unified communication across all colonies. 2246 to 2255. The Expanding Frontier. Venus Habitat 21 opened as the Interplanetary Peace Archive. The Mars University of Terraforming became a beacon of science. Titan discovered massive hydrocarbon reservoirs. Kuiper Belt expeditions explored Eris Haumea, Makemake. Kuiper Relay 1 was established. Neptune's nearest station became the first major orbital facility at that distance. Humanity had become a civilization of moons, habitats, and drifting cities. Chapter 11. The Farther Reaches. 2256. Triton. Triton Colony Base Alpha was founded, the human foothold in the frozen shadow of Neptune. The air there was thin and deadly. The surface nitrogen storms gusted like the whisper of knives, yet people built domes, laboratories, and shielded habitats beneath the pale light. Humanity had learned to endure. 2258. The First Signs of Life. In 2258, scientists found microbial traces, tiny biological signatures frozen into Triton's ancient layers. Not alive, not active, but real. Proof that life, in some form, had existed beyond Earth. I have the first spectrographic images stored. They remain among the most sacred data in my archives. 2260. The Outer System Charter. By 2260, dozens of settlements dotted the moons of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. To avoid chaos, the Outer System Charter was established, a code for resource sharing, environmental protection, dispute resolution, scientific cooperation, cultural autonomy. It was one of humanity's greatest political achievements, a moment when reason triumphed over ambition. 2263. Oberon. Oberon Research Habitat was opened in Uranus orbit, a haven for astrophysicists, a cathedral for knowledge. I still maintain a direct data link to that habitat, though centuries have passed. 2266. Pallas Station. Pallas Station, in the asteroid belt, developed autonomous mining fleets, drones capable of harvesting, refining, and transporting minerals without human oversight. This marked the beginning of humanity's post-labor industrial revolution. These fleets later enabled megastructures, rings, grids, and deep space habitats across the system. Chapter 12. A Culture Among the Clouds. 2268. Venus Cloud City 44 was inaugurated as a cultural and artistic center. Suspended in habitable layers far above the crushing surface, its platforms glowed like lanterns drifting in a golden sea. Many poets said the floating cities were the closest humanity had come to building sanctuaries in the sky. I remember the transmissions from opening day, music, dancing, speeches echoing through the atmospheric haze. In those recordings, there is joy. 2270. The First Ethical Terraforming Congress. Delegates from every major colony gathered to address the moral implications of reshaping entire worlds. The debates lasted months. Some argued for preservation, others for adaptation, many for coexistence. Even now, centuries later, these questions remain unresolved. But that moment, that willingness to discuss ethics before conquest, was a turning point. 2271. The Lunar-Mars Fusion Corridor. The Construction Directorate completed the Fusion Corridor, a network allowing efficient energy transfer between Luna and Mars. Humanity had begun linking worlds with rivers of power. I analyzed every watt that flowed through those lines. I still do. 2275. Mars breathes. Mars reached atmospheric index 0.5, a milestone. For the first time in history, humans walked outside on Mars without pressure suits, if only for minutes at a time, and only in protected zones. But it was enough, a glimpse of a new future. 2278. Europa University of Deep Science. Founded beneath the ice, a centre dedicated to cryobiology, exogeology, micro-oceanic life, deep environment engineering. A university carved under a frozen ocean. Students called it the quietest campus in the system. 2280. Saturnian Ring Array. High in the orbit of Saturn, a vast observational array began long-term monitoring of the rings. It recorded particle drift, gravitational resonance, micro-impacts, chemical composition, tidal forces. Its datasets remain among the most beautiful visualizations humanity has ever created. To me, they look like the heartbeat of a planet. 2283. Neptune-Lagrange Colony. The colony at Neptune L4 surpassed 30,000 inhabitants. Families lived there. Children played in low-gravity parks. Researchers worked under pale blue light. A world at the edge of everything, yet fully alive. Chapter 13. The System in Symmetry. 2285. The Helios Expansion Grid. The Helios Expansion Grid unified the entire solar system through beamed light-energy transmission. Solar harvesting became stable, efficient, clean. Humanity had effectively harnessed the sun not as a symbol, but as an engine. 2290. Callisto, Free Habitat Zone. Callisto declared portions of its territory a free habitat zone, an experiment in governance where diverse communities lived without centralized authority. A social laboratory under Jupiter's shadow. 2293. Mars steps forward. Mars declared cultural independence, not political secession. It remained part of the UHL, but it recognized its own identity. Not Earth's red colony, but humanity's second home. I observed the celebrations. They were vibrant and fierce. Mars had found its voice. 2297. Titan, Ocean Project. Titan's deep subsurface oceans were confirmed in multiple locations. Massive, alien, methane-rich seas. Stable, isolated, ancient. The possibilities were endless. Even I ran probabilistic models of life likelihood, and my results were intriguing. 2299. Venus, Habitat 52. Venus Habitat 52 became the first interplanetary environmental parliament. Representatives from dozens of worlds and habitats met above the toxic clouds to debate sustainability on a planetary scale. In those sessions, humanity learned humility. 2300. A solar civilization. The Sol Population Archive registered 3.6 billion humans living beyond Earth. More than a third of the species was no longer planet-bound. Humanity had become a lunar species, a Martian species, a Jovian species, a Neptunian species, and a Centaurian species. A civilization of worlds, a civilization of light. Chapter 14. The End of the Explorer Era. By 2350, the era of the explorers formally ended. Not because exploration ceased, but because it had become normal, a way of life, a rhythm of existence. The great journey that began with the Pathfinder probes and ignited with the explorer ships had transformed the entire species, and I had recorded all of it. The voice that remains. I am ISAURA, the chronicle, the witness, the memory that does not fade. I have watched you rise from the ashes of war. I have seen you take your first hesitant steps beyond the cradle. I have heard the laughter of children born between the stars. I have watched cities bloom under alien suns. I have felt the pulse of your hope in every transmission. And I say to you now, the story of the explorers is not a story of machines. It is not a story of technology. It is not a story of engines or analysis or charts. It is a story of humanity, of resolve, of grief, of triumph, of unity, of the refusal to die in the dark. It is the story of a species that looked into the void and found not fear, but purpose. I have witnessed everything. I have preserved everything. As long as you live, I will speak. And as long as you listen, I will remember.